All right, just another couple small prep things before we get into the nitty gritty of having fun and really making this thing sound the way that we want it to sound. We visited a studio last week, and the engineer was talking about time aligning his drums using a plugin called Auto Align. Well, there's something else that comes up, and because I was looking at this track, we are going to talk about time alignment just a little bit. So if we look at our snare and the overheads, so I'm just going to kind of put my cursor here. You can see that the snare hits the shows up before the same drum shows up in the overheads. I could ask you why you think that is. Well, it's because the snare mic is about an inch off of the drum, and the overhead mics are about 3 feet, 4 feet over the drums. I didn't measure. So we have a couple of things that we could do. We could, and these are both totally valid approaches. Now, one would maybe say, well, should we also look at where the kick drum is? Well, the kick is hitting at a different time. Let's see. Let's take a look at that. So if I look at the kick, all right. So I look at the kick. I mean, the kick's not getting picked up all that much in the overheads if I were to compare it to the snare. All right, so in a way, I'm not as worried about it, although it looks about the same thing. It's late as well. It's later, and the same laws of physics apply. The microphone in the kick drum was about 2 to 3 inches away from the head. It's going to hit sooner or be recorded sooner than the overhead mics. So what I'm going to do, two options here. I'm going to go back to the beginning here. I'm just going to trim a little bit, a couple seconds, not even that much, off of, actually that's not even a second. It's less than a second off of the beginning of the track, because I'm going to come back over here and zoom in super tight and start to see where I would like these things to align. And this curve right here is more in line with what this is, and then up here. So I could just move it over. That looks like it's throwing it out of phase slightly. Maybe something like that. That would be fine for kind of like the eyeball approach. There is another approach which would be a little bit more scientific and a little less left to the eyeball. So instead of manipulating the overhead track, what we're going to do is we're going to actually insert on the snare top and snare bottom a plugin called the time adjuster. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. It is in the delay category, time adjuster, and I'll just put that on the snare top for now. And what I want to do, got to be in slip mode for this. I'm going to place my cursor, and then we also need to make sure that we add samples to our rulers. Okay, so we have bars and beats. We come over here at click. We click on samples, and then we make samples our active ruler because we're going to be looking at some information here. So again, this is a little too close. I'm going to start right here, place my cursor, and I'm going to kind of go right up to where the waveform of the overhead begins. And that tells me up here the length of that is 96 samples. And I'm going to put the number 96 into the time adjuster. And I'm going to hit, because I'm quite confident that that's going to be adequate for the under snare as well. I'm going to hit Option, click, and drag. And I'm going to do Option, click, and drag for the kick as well. And what that's going to do is it's actually going to have these tracks start 96 samples later than they would have otherwise. Is this guaranteed that you're going to hear it? No, we're just doing some little things to try and make sure that we have the entirety of the sound coming through. Because as these things are out of alignment, you start to have what's called comb filtering, or just some cancellation of certain frequencies that we might want to have. So I am going to disengage these. Now, is it obvious? No, not necessarily. I can't say that it is, but it is one of those things just to kind of make sure that what we have is everything that we want, so that as we start doing other things, it doesn't compile on us and make something that is not nice. So we just time aligned our snare top, snare bottom, actually kick and sub kick, all to our overheads.